What is going on, New York Giant fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Big Blue in the Bronx podcast. Make sure to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops or drops. Appreciate you coming back. Share this out. 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Do all of the good stuff. So, don't know, again, I usually say this a lot, but don't know how long this podcast should take. I was originally going to do a live stream with one of my friends who's a content creator, known across YouTube, but unfortunately some scheduling stuff happened, and I couldn't get a content creator on, so I'm like, you know what, let me just assess the Giants by the first half and the second half myself, and then in the offseason we'll do some sort of a roundtable, whether it's the draft, free agency, or just like a off-season 2023 review. So the way I'm going to do this, very simple. I'm going to go through the offense, break it down, second half questions, defense through the first half, second half questions, coaching staff, and then second half questions, and that's pretty much that. So let's revisit the timeline of the first 12 games, the first 13 weeks for the New York Giants. All sorts of expectations. Giants going 10-7, 9-8, 8-9, at least at that level. And everything that went wrong, or I should say everything that could go wrong, went wrong for the New York Giants, really starting with that blocked field goal. The Giants had a solid running game up to that point in the Cowboy game, but then there was a false start penalty, a bad snap, it was raining, and the blocked field goal happened, and I think that was just the end of the Giants season right there because the team couldn't emotionally recover, nor mentally. And then you started having, the pick six, and then Daniel Jones threw another pick, so that wasn't good. And usually when the Giants are 0-1, they don't make the playoffs, and that's the path we're on right now. With that being said, go to the next game. We win against the Cardinals, which you should have beaten the piss out of the Cardinals given your expectations, but the Giants didn't do that. They were actually down 28-7 at the half. They win. Thursday Night Football, they're on the West Coast. They lose to the 49ers expectedly. Then they go against Seattle and in a game where the Giants have to win, right? You're how many weeks, Buffalo on the road and Miami on the road. Seattle was a must-win situation, and they didn't have Andrew Thomas, which was a big part of why their offense really didn't do too well. And, of course, the quarterback play a part of it, and amongst other things. So they get absolutely by the Seattle Seahawks. Pretty much the end of that game was when Daniel Jones threw the pick six to Davon Witherspoon. I mean, I'm like, dude, we need a quarter. That made me realize that the New York Giants needed a quarterback, and they need one in the following draft. So 2024, hopefully the Giants get one. I really don't see a reason as to why Daniel Jones should be back as the starter. Now, he may start the first few games depending on how his ACL feels. There's no way he should be the long-term QB. We'll see what happens. But you go to week 5, Daniel Jones gets hurt, which, again, is to be expected. Tyrod Taylor comes in, kind of was, I wouldn't say predictable, but foreseeable that Daniel Jones would get hurt behind the offensive line. He wasn't seeing receivers, taking too many sacks, running out of open, very good pockets, I should say. But, Josh Azudu playing left tackle, not good. He's done for the year. Mark Lewinsky factoring in. Some of these other guys factoring in. Just the play was terrible. Some of the worst O-line combos I've ever seen. And, Tyrod comes in. He comes in against the Bills, and the offensive line wasn't terrible. Could have been better, but, it's a pretty close game, and the Giants rode with that game. Very close, though. A lot of miscues into Week 7, Commanders game. And the Giants win that one very much off of the tail of the defense like they did so many other games last year. And then you move forward with that. You go against the Jets. Tyrod Taylor gets hurt. Tommy DeVito comes in, and the Giants lose a very much nail-biter 13-10 in overtime to the New York Jets, and that was just not a good offensive game. Then the little spur of hope people had left for playoff aspirations was against the Raiders. Daniel Jones comes back when Tyrod Taylor gets hurt. He tears his ACL, and that's the end of the season for him. And Tommy DeVito comes in, and pretty much the rest of the way, the Giants have been not good. But they won against Washington in a very good defensive effort. Same thing you could say against New England. Tommy DeVito obviously has put on this whole social media trend of Tommy cutlets and, the this, which is called a hand purse. I don't think any Italian actually calls it a hand purse, but that's what they call it with the emojis and stuff like that. I guess they're culturally appropriating. I don't know. But let's actually break it down into everything that we have described thus far. And, of course, we have a few weeks left in the season. We got 5 to be exact. We got 2 games against the Eagles. We got 1 against the Packers, the Saints, and the Rams. So, only 2 divisional games. Let's start with the offense. We'll start at quarterback. Daniel Jones getting hurt was not good. And obviously Tyrod Taylor got hurt. It was destined to happen behind this bad offensive line. The Tyrod injury was not due to the offensive line. Daniel Jones' injury, in my opinion, the first part was, not the ACL injury. Though you could argue some things kind of like mixed in there, Lawrence Cager being in his way, and Daniel Jones takes a sack, maneuvered his knee, and then his knee buckled once he took the next snap, and boom, that was it. Season's over. But Daniel Jones was not playing very good beforehand. We obviously excused the Dallas game a little bit because of the circumstances. Against Arizona in the first half, he was a ghost. Second half, he obviously showed up, which is great. Against San Fran, not much to be had. Poor offensive line play, offensive inconsistencies. Then you move to Seattle in a game he needs to be absolutely on his stuff. He doesn't play up to par at all. Missed throws, same shit we were seeing in 2021. The pick 6 was just awful. It seems like Monday Night Football, he always likes committing turnovers. And again, at that point, I realized the Giants needed a QB, and that Daniel Jones was not the answer. So, at that point, the Giants were still living with aspirations of 1-3. The defense still playing decent. And then he gets hurt. He gets hurt against the Miami Dolphins, and it's just like, it's one of those, right? Gets hurt against the Dolphins. Put in Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor starts from there, and they win a game. And, I will say this, right? Against the Jets, it was not the story. A little bit against the Bills. And against Washington, there was that debate, right? The offense looked better under Tyrod. In my opinion, the offense did look better under Tyrod because, there were some mistakes, but Tyrod took risks, right? And, the offensive line obviously is a factor, and Tyrod has taken more sacks in his career. But the fact of the matter is he was taking risks. He was going to high it downfield. He was, getting Waller up the seam. He was, hitting Saquon Barkley in stride in some of these passes, right? And another thing we saw with Daniel Jones is just missed throws. Not just, seeing guys open and not throwing it, but there was that one play that really pissed me off against the Dolphins to where, he has Wan'Dale Robinson open coming out of the backfield and the flat. He throws it behind him. And it's just like, that could have been a first, but it wasn't because the throw was so shitty. So they win a game, and then obviously what happens with the Jets and Tommy DeVito coming in, and just very unexpected, very bad planning by Brian Daboll, because Tyrod is an injury-prone quarterback. He has always been that way since coming into the league, and they didn't have a plan for him. They didn't have a plan to back him up, I should say. Tommy DeVito wasn't even taking first-team snaps. They bring him in, and they let him throw 7 times for -2 passing yards, or total that's -9. So, that's just the situation that was. They were playing not to lose that game. Then, mysteriously, and this caught me so off guard, it's not even funny, that Daniel Jones is suddenly cleared, right? He was supposed to go against the Cowboys and play, and he ended up playing against the Raiders, snapping his knee, all that sort of stuff. But also, as well, I may add this, right? His neck was not fully healed. You heard multiple reports from multiple different doctors. This thing needs surgery, or he just needs to be out in a long extended period of time. That's what I didn't like, personally, me, with the way they've been handling injuries. And I know that's not much talked about over the last few weeks because the Giants have won 2 straight games, all these different things, right? But the Daniel Jones injury, I thought they very much mishandled. I thought to some extent they mishandled the Barkley injury. He's going to be nagging with it the entire season, so, that's not something we're going to, we're going to forget about, but it's also not something we're going to complain about because he's the one putting himself on the field for the contract. And also Andrew Thomas. He was out there meaningless snaps against the Cowboys. They didn't take him out seeing that he was clearly hurt. I mean, it's 26-0. Put in somebody else. And also, how many times they left Daniel Jones in getting hit when the game is completely over. I mean, that just doesn't make a lot of sense in my personal opinion. So you have that and, the whole Andrew Thomas thing, and he is such a vital part of this offense. It's not even funny, man. When the quarterback is protected on their blind side, the offense functions a little bit more in a good way. And Andrew Thomas has just been the most important player on offense. There's IMP. I think it's him. Beside the quarterback, beside the running back. So you have that. And again, just the way the Giants have mishandled injuries, not a fan of it. And again, I know you were kind of playing for a playoff spot, Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Andrew Thomas, but it just doesn't need to happen. It just doesn't need to happen. You'd rather just say, okay, he cannot play. And I get it. There's a coach's mentality. There's a winning mentality of, hey, if they can't play, they're a bunch of pussies. Well, if they seriously can't play and they're getting hurt again, that's going to fall on the coaching staff and the training staff, which has been a problem for the New York Giants for the past how many years now. Getting hurt, injuries, all that sort of stuff. The running game has not been good. They rank, I think they rank like either 14th or 24th in the running game. I want to say it's 14th, but it could be 24th. The running game just hasn't gotten going. Saquon Barkley, let's take a look, right? Had a huge dose of carries against the New York Jets, had 128 yards on something like 36 carries. That's not efficient, right? I always look at a running back. I always look at their efficiency, right? How many yards are they rushing for? This, that, and the other thing, this and that, and this and that, whatever, right? I always look at yards per carry. That game against the Jets, that was not efficient running. He ran for like 3-point-something yards per carry. And the rest of the season, he has not had a game where it's over it's over 100 yards. He's had games where it's like 4 yards per carry, stuff like that. Like the game against Dallas the first time, he had 4.3 yards per carry, which is solid, right? Against Arizona, he had 63 yards and 17 carries, which totaled out to 3.7, just under, and he also had a touchdown as well. And he was also, I will give credit where credit is due. Saquon Barkley's been a very good receiver out of the backfield, right? Catching passes. There was some drop issues earlier in the year, but, with Tyrod and DeVito, they trust him a little bit more out of the backfield, and he's acclimated to that. You didn't have a running game against San Fran. They opted not to run it, and Matt Breida was the lead carrier at 17 yards. And then Seattle, they didn't have him. Miami, they didn't have him. They got him back for Buffalo, and he had 93 yards on a total of like 24 carries, so that's about 3.9. Not necessarily efficient. He had 2 big runs, 53 yards total. And then Barkley against Washington, you saw a little bit of an emergence, kind of him coming back, 3.7 yards per carry. So that's really where it's been with Saquon Barkley. I'm not going to go down the whole list, but he's at 4.2 yards per carry on the season. He's about, 303 yards away from the 1,000 mark, which would be number 4 of his career. And he's got 165 rushing yards. 165 carries. My bad on that one. And the Giants rush, top 10 most in the league, percentage-wise. But the offensive line hasn't blocked. I feel like there are some games where Barkley doesn't see a hole. I think definitely Eric Gray and Matt Breida filling in for Barkley during the injury status was a little bit of a product. But again, Marcus McKee then rotating in, Jalen Mayfield, Jalen Thomas, all these other nobodies. And now we have a healthy offensive line outside Evan Neal. That's going to help factor everything in for what looks to be a decent second half. I don't have any expectations personally. I want the Giants to lose out, but competitively. I know that's an oxymoron, but you just have to look at it from a couple of different perspectives to get where I'm going. Now, I will say this. The wide receiver production is not good. And some of it is the receivers. Some of it is not the receivers. The quarterback play definitely hampered the production of Darren Waller. I will say that, right? First few games, he wasn't getting the ball much. Against the Cowboys, didn't get it a lot. 49ers, he got it a lot against the Cardinals. Got it a lot the first time against Washington. And you saw a little bit of a glimpse, and then he went out with the hamstring against the Jets, and that was pretty much over, done. Darius Slayton, he's been on and off, some drops, some fumbling issues, So, he's been a little inconsistent. I wouldn't bring him back next year per se, though I don't think, he's had a bad year for Darius Slayton standards because, again, 5th-round picks, I know 1-year deal, 1 touchdown this season, and 435 yards, which leads the Giants again. I think other than 2021, he led the Giants in receiving yards 2019, 2020, 2022, and, now 2023. What I will say is this also, too, you factor in Jalen Hyatt and Wan'Dale Robinson. Wan'Dale Robinson, in my opinion, has had more offensive consistency in terms of production than a guy like Jalen Hyatt. And he's the speedy guy. He's a tweener, but he runs for pretty good routes. He's actually at the top of the league in separation. So if you guys don't think he's separating, I would look at the stats. But Wan'Dale Robinson, I'm kind of impressed. I'm not going to lie. With the season he's had, I would like to get him a little bit more involved in the offense. Fuck Paris Campbell, fuck some of these other guys. Hodgins, I get it, but, he's probably not going to be a top priority next year to retain. Sterling Shepard, there's no need to really factor him in. Lawrence Cager, obviously, because of the tight end position. But Wan'Dale Robinson and Jalen Hyatt should be the point of emphasis moving forward, right? Tommy DeVito went to Jalen Hyatt a lot against the New England Patriots. You saw a little bit against the Commanders, but against the New England Patriots, he was the leading receiver. And I talked about it. I asked Dable about it. I said, look, obviously Jalen Hyatt was the offensive MVP against the Pats. What's the plan to get him more involved? And he said, they got to come in. They got to work like they've been doing. Again, I get it. There's playoffs on the line, stuff like that. But Hyatt and Wan'Dale Robinson, they need to be a part of the game plan in and out. And you factor Slayton in, of course. And you get an outside receiver next year or whatever the case may be. I mean, Hyatt could be the other guy and Wan'Dale Robinson, and just some depth at the back end. But I'll talk about this part, and then we'll go to second half questions, is the multiple O-line combinations. The Giants have allowed 69 sacks, which is the most in the league. I will say that that's not all due to the offensive line. Daniel Jones hasn't been great with pocket presence. Neither is Tommy DeVito, taking like 20 sacks in 3 games and all that other nonsense. But it doesn't help that everyone outside of, Schmitz, you kind of push off to the side, right? He's a rookie. He's still fitting in with different things. He's gotten better as of late, though. Andrew Thomas is Andrew Thomas. You don't really need to worry about him. But other than that, nobody's played well. Justin Pugh has had his fair share of struggles. He's better in the running game than he is the pass protection game. Bredesen hasn't been himself, so you may look to move on from him next year. And Glowinski, not great. Kind of did better when Evan Neal was out against the Bills and against the Commanders. So you have that. Tyree Phillips is a right tackle who's been solid. I will say that. And then Azudu on IR, Lemieux on IR, and all those different guys. But, Parrott's going to come back soon. With that on the table, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Evan Neal. No one cares about Matt Parrott. No one cares about some of these other guys. We're talking about Evan Neal. He's allowed 2 sacks, 5 penalties this season. I mean, he has been injured for most of the stretch. I think it started with, I don't want to say it was the Jet game, or it might have been the Jet game. Let's see. Before the Jets, they played the Commanders. And then he got hurt. I want to say it was some early in the season. Actually, let's take a look at the timeline so I don't screw some stuff up. But he got hurt again against the Las Vegas Raiders. So let's go down the list, right? He plays the first few games, blah, 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 blah. Against Buffalo, he gets hurt. They get another guy to fill in at right tackle. And then, he's out. Commanders, he's out against the Jets, comes back against the Raiders, what seems to be a good offensive line. And then what happens, right? He gets hurt again. And he's out for the Cowboy game. He's out for the Commander game. He's out for the Pack game. So will he practice this week? Will he start this week? I have no idea for you guys. But what we do need to see, though, is you need to see some sort of a glimpse going into 2023 of, hey, this guy could be our future tackle, or this guy could be our future guard. You heard Joe Shane. He has total faith in Evan Neal to be the future starting right tackle of the New York Giants. But you need to see something. Like last year, there were minimal improvements compared to Andrew Thomas's rookie year. And Andrew Thomas is on a different level other than Evan Neal. I want Evan Neal at least to be average, and he hasn't been that his entire Giants career. The games he's played. He's played 20 games in a Giants uniform. I have not seen average. I've seen below average. And, you're the Giants, right? You don't want to really make the mistake that Jerry Reese did with Eric Flowers. You have Andrew Whitworth on the market, but say, nah, we still trust Eric Flowers in another year of him, and so on and so forth. You don't want to do that. If you have to draft over somebody, you draft over somebody. It is what it is, right? I'll give Dave Gettleman credit. He drafted Andrew Thomas, and I know Jason Garrett had parts in that. He drafted Andrew Thomas over Nate Solder even before the opt-out thing came through. So Nate Solder probably would have been the right tackle, or he could have been the left tackle. I don't know, but they drafted over him. I would consider if throughout this year, next 5 games, you don't see an improvement from Evan Neal, you get rid of the coach, which we'll talk about later. You also say, Neal, either move inside a guard or we're going to look for an outlet to trade you or something like that. Because the NFL is a quicker game nowadays. Guys grow quicker in their game, their technique, their strength, all these different things. But you need to make a move because, we can't have Evan Neal always figuring it out forever. It just can't happen. So, second half questions, right? Let's go to that. Will Tyrod Taylor, Tommy DeVito start? All signs are pointing to Tyrod Taylor being at least active on Monday night against the Packers. They waived Matt Barkley. They're going to sign him back to the practice squad. They waived Jacob Eason. So he's going to be active. In my personal opinion, I don't care who starts. I would lean more towards DeVito. Why would I lean more towards DeVito? This is kind of like a tank bias, but this is also like a general bias or just a general decision of mine, my opinion. Tyrod Taylor is the better quarterback. Nobody doubts that. But Tommy DeVito has a chance of coming in being the backup next year to the rookie quarterback, or at least a third-string guy competing along with a backup, Daniel Jones, and maybe the rookie quarterback. Obviously, if they take one, which hopefully they do. But along that premises, right, you want to see what Tommy DeVito can do against the Eagles. You want to see what he could do against some of these other cats. And honestly, you don't know how the locker room will align because everyone's gotten behind, Tommy DeVito during the whole, the cutlets and the hand purses and all these different things. But if Tyrod's back, I would assure you that they will say, okay, well, our best chance to win is with Tyrod Taylor. We'll get Tommy DeVito next year. But I would say Tommy DeVito. Personally, again, I won't be mad if Tyrod starts. But as for Tommy DeVito, man, I would put him through and, just play out the rest of the season. I mean, the Giants are not making the playoffs, let's be honest. They don't know that, but we do. Will Saquon Barkley play to a contract to get 1K yards? So the Packers, they're not very good against the run. The Saints, I don't think they're a particularly good run defense either. I know they're one of the best passing defenses. But that's going to be a big tale, right? I know DeVito will get more pass opportunities as they see fit. But Saquon Barkley, he's got a contract on the line, and he's got a rookie quarterback, an undrafted quarterback. So they're going to lean probably a little bit more on him. Would I do it bell cow system? No, I would not. And I would also like to see what Eric Gray can do down the stretch. Not as much as Jalen Hyatt and some of these other guys, but Saquon Barkley, as far as he goes, he's playing for a contract. And he could get to 1,000 yards and kind of say, hey, I was injured 3 games. I got to 1,000 yards, right? He could say that. He could realistically say that. Also, 2 more things, kind of what we touched on. How much will Jalen Hyatt get the ball in the second half? I think he should get it a fair amount. And again, I talked about this several times this year. With the way the quarterback play has been and the way the offensive system has been, he's not going to get 100 yards every game. He's not going to be the lead receiver every game. He's not going to be the most consistent receiver every game. But he will get the chunk yard plays. The 50-yard play downfield, the 30-yard play downfield, the 20-yard play downfield, the 45-yard play downfield. That will be Jalen Hyatt's job. Then they'll pass it to Slayton. Then they'll pass it to Bellinger. Then they'll do what they do and then run it with Saquon, right? I think that's Jalen Hyatt's role. And the next year when they get the quarterback in, draft a couple offensive linemen, Hyatt will get an ultimate second-year boost. And then also as well, will Evan Neal improve down the stretch, giving a good glimpse for 24? I would like to pick Joe Shane's brain at the end of the season. Hey, Joe, Evan Neal, let's just say he does make an improvement. Do you still consider moving him to guard, staying at tackle, drafting over him? Kind of the same thought process if he doesn't work out. Because, again, you don't want to be, we're going to go into year 3 with Evan Neal as a sure guy. You have to have at least a viable plan behind him, right? Bring in a solid tackle, whether it's via the draft, via free agency, just as a backup option. So, let's talk about the defense, which has been the higher side of things with the New York Giants, right? The defense, right? So, let's start off with a good route, and that's Kayvon Thibodeau and Dexter Lawrence having career seasons. I was critical, and now I didn't say he was a bust, but I was critical with, the subject of Kayvon Thibodeau at the beginning. I wasn't Sal Licata, I wasn't some of these other cats, right? But Kayvon Thibodeau has stepped up. Would I like to see him play a little bit better against the Dallas Cowboys and some of these better teams? Yeah. I would like to see him better against the 49ers. Some of these other teams, right? He's not drafted to play dominant football against trash teams. He's drafted number 5 overall to be a game changer, someone that defenses plan against. And we've seen that a little bit more. He was very impressive in the running game against the Patriots. He was very impactful against the Commanders. The Cowboys was a little bit silent. The game before that, the Raiders, didn't really see him a lot. The game before that, the Jets game, he was very impactful. Had 3 sacks on Zach Wilson. And I think he also forced a fumble. So you have that. 26 pressures, 11 sacks, 12 starts, and 36 tackles. 12 tackles for a loss, which he's doubled the tackles for a loss from last year. He's got 13 QB hits. And also, I will say this, right? He is basically the lone ranger out there. Other than Dex in the middle, we're talking about edge players. Boogie Basham, Benton Whitley, and Jihad Ward, and Azeez Ojulari. Those guys are not getting the job done, and you expect the last few guys I mentioned, Benton Whitley, Jihad Ward, Boogie Basham, not to get it done. But Azeez Ojulari not stepping in and not stepping up is bad, whether you consider it, he's not getting this many snaps because of injury. He's not doing this. He's not doing that, whatever, blah, 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 blah. He was supposed to be, he's going to step up in this defense and be a really good pass rusher alongside Kayvon Thibodeau. And I said it, right? I said it last draft. I said the Giants need to go out there. They need to go out and get an edge rusher because Azeez cannot stay healthy. And, what if Azeez goes down? I talked about in the preseason. The Giants needed another edge rusher. They cut Deshaun Bauer. They cut some of these other guys. They cut Quincy Roche about a year and a half ago. They cut Habakkuk Baldonado. And they went in with really no plan to where some of the snaps you had Boogie Basham, Jihad Ward rushing the passer. Teams laugh at that. But his game log for 2023 in terms of Azeez, right? Defensively, 56% against New England, 60% against Washington, 22% against Dallas. I mean, this guy's an injury machine. He really is. Let's be completely transparent about it. So he, thus far in his career, he's played 30 games with the New York Giants, right? And obviously you have 17 against, so that's 34. And you add on the other games this year, so I'm just trying to think. He's played 30 games this year. So, I'm apologies, still trying to do math here. He's played 30 games thus far. So, I've added up the math and everything after the long brainstorming. But, I did the math. 30 divided by 46, right? We've played 17, and then another 12 because the Giants are 4-8 this season. And he's played 30 of those. That's 65%, which isn't that bad if you look at the grand scheme of things. But you take a look, he's missed almost a full season of NFL football within the last 2 years. It's not like he got hurt his first year. His last 2 years, he's missed 16 games due to injury. I mean, that's just not good. And again, his production on the field, let's take a look. No sacks, 1 quarterback hit, and 4 quarterback pressures. That's not going to do it. But shouts to Kayvon, man. And then Dexter Lawrence, I give a good shout-out, too, because as far as Dex goes, right, 4 sacks on the season. He got Leonard Williams taken away from him. Other than the game against the Dolphins and against the Raiders, which the defense just played horribly, he's been an impact, right? You see him on the film. You see him here. You see him there. Quarterback pressures, quarterback hits. He's got 17 QB hits, 4 sacks. 4 tackles for loss, and 21 quarterback pressures. And, I know obviously PFF values pressures a little bit more. They have it go up to like 30, 40, stuff like that. PFF has their own, side of stats. But Dex, if the Giants didn't have such a shitty team, he'd be in Pro Bowl conversations. He'd be in the Defensive Player of the Year conversations. I could tell you that right now. But also, it's going to be interesting to see how these D-line develop behind Dexter Lawrence. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Leonard Williams trade. Talk about this, right? Bobby Okereke and Micah McFadden. They have totally emerged as the next set of linebackers for the New York Giants for at least the next 2 years. Okereke, no sacks on the season, but 113 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hits. And then you look at Micah McFadden, who's had a here and there around the square, but for the most part, he's been good. 74 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, and 5 quarterback hits. Less sacks, but much of improvement in the QB hits, tackles for loss, and tackles category for Mr. Micah McFadden, and quarterback pressures, too. He's got an uptick in snaps at 71%, and he's made the jump we've all asked him to, right? And it's not going to, we're not going to sit here and say, every mistake, oh, damn it, Micah McFadden caused that, or we're not going to have so much of a microscope on him because, number one, he's the second linebacker. Number two, he was a 5th-round pick. And, we could talk about Joe Shane missed here and around the square, but Micah McFadden's a 5th-round pick. How many NFL teams get a starting caliber linebacker as a 5th-round pick? I can't name too many. So, as far as McFadden goes, I'm very much impressed with him. Very much impressed with him. And it's great. I'll talk about this a little bit. The D-line development behind Dexter Lawrence. We need to see something, right? A'Shawn Robinson's been decent. Raheem Nozarch has not been great. Jordan Riley got minimal snaps against the Patriots, and then DJ Davidson also covering in there. I don't see substantial amount of, I would say, growth, right? Nacho's not going to be here next year. DJ Davidson, he's a late-round pick. Same thing with Jordan Riley, but you want to have some confidence going in next year, whether you draft the D lineman or not. Hey, this is the depth behind him. We could stop the run at a solid level. And the problem is they haven't played up to that level yet to where Okereke and McFadden have to play a little bit extra. They have to play a little bit over their game just to, make sure that the running back doesn't go up the middle and, cut it for a 20, 30-yard gain. So that's as far as that goes. So, again, shouts to Okereke, McFadden, but the D-line development needs to start happening behind Dexter Lawrence, or else the Giants will be trapped. Maybe signing another veteran next year or drafting a D-lineman. Deonte Banks' rookie season. We're not going to talk about Trey Hawkins. We're not going to talk about Adoree Jackson too much, though. I think he's been solid of late. Deonte Banks, right? As for Pro Football Reference, he's got 2 picks on the year. Very good picks. He's allowed 3 touchdowns. That's not bad. One is the difference in that ratio, 76.6 passer rating, 54.1 completion percentage. So, had the pick against Mac Jones, had the pick against Sam Howell. Both are not very good quarterbacks, but again, creds to Deonte Banks. And he struggled at points this season. Struggled against the 49ers, struggled against the Jets, and he's also struggled against a little bit against the Raiders, definitely I know, and he also struggled against the Dallas Cowboys. What we're going to see down the stretch is going to be interesting. Is he going to play up against these wide receivers in terms of like wide receiver 1s, wide receiver 2s? Who's he going to spend more time around? Because you got Green Bay. There's not too many like logistical threats there, right? Got Christian Watson or Romeo Doubs. They're not game breakers. Then you go against the Saints. Michael Thomas on IR. So are they going to put him on Olave with or without safety help, if they do at all? Then you go against the Eagles. Right, you go against the Eagles and A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith. It's going to be interesting to see who takes the cake there. And then also against the Rams, Cooper Kupp. So, Banks, I think it's going to be telling with him whether the Giants put him against good wide receivers, the wide receiver 1's the world, or just the wide receiver 2's the world, in terms of confidence in him. Is he ready to make that jump? Is he going to live up to the test, live up to all that hype? Do they need to bring Adoree Jackson back next year? Do they need to sign a vet corner? Do they need to sign somebody? Do they need to draft a corner? those questions are going to come out in the offseason, but we'll get a better glimpse of how they view it later at the end of the year based on how Banks plays. But overall, it's a solid rookie season. Like, it's not DeAndre Baker, Corey Ballantyne rookie season. It's not Eli Apple rookie season. This has been a very good rookie season for Deontay Banks, considering. And then also just a little bit one, right? Xavier McKinney talking, but playing better of late. Xavier McKinney on the season, he hasn't really had the impact I thought he would in the Wink Martindale system. Giving him a 62% completion and coverage, no touchdowns, 75.8 passer rating and coverage, and an interception. I thought he would be a little bit more ball hockey, but again, one interception in 2 years kind of clears that. His play hasn't been uplifting, but again, better as of late against the Commanders and against the New England Patriots. I would like to see it sustained a little bit more. And also, he was missing tackles in the beginning, but he's got to shut up with the comments, man. He really does. And we'll talk about the coaching staff next, but he's got to shut up with the comments. Whether it's a contract thing, whether you have issues with Wink Martindale, be a fucking man and just keep it in-house. Like, seriously. This team is going through a lot. They're sticking together, and you seem to be the piece that's just, like, breaking away, that's isolating yourself from the rest of the team and trusting this coaching staff. I don't get it. Again, it could be maybe Wink's putting him in a bad position. I personally don't think so. It could be a position of, hey, Joe Shea didn't sign him to a contract extension, so McKinney is just blabbing his mouth. What he should be doing is playing up to his level and even above that to get a contract extension. Personally, me, I don't care if the Giants re-sign him. I don't care. Spend a good pick on a safety next year if you have to, like second, third, fourth round. But if he plays better in the next few games, maybe I'll change my opinion. So, second half questions, right? Development of Azeez Ojulari. I know a lot of people are like yay and nay to cutting him next year because you do actually save something with the cap. But as far as that goes, right, I just don't see a positive of keeping him on this team. Save the cap that you could get because he hasn't shown anything when he's on the field. What's it going to be the difference, when he's off the field, he's not even on the team anymore? And people will say, well, he'll succeed elsewhere. Well, he won't be on the field because he's injured all the time. So I'm interested, again, next 5 games, to see what Azeez Ojulari looks like. I'm also interested to see what the D-line looks like behind Dexter Lawrence, right? With what's going on there. DJ Davidson, Jordan Riley. Can those guys step up? They have to be active. I don't give a shit. The playoffs, no playoffs. Jordan Riley and DJ Davidson have to be active. It has to happen. Will McKinney play to a contract? That's what he's going to be looking for. He's been looking for a contract this entire season. Next 5 games is going to be pivotal for him. And then finally, this was just a little tidbit I threw in. Dane Belton or Javarius Owens at safety. Do not activate Bobby McCain. He's not going to be here next year. Owens, you selected in the 7th round with the last pick. Dane Belton, you selected him in the 4th round. Is he just a role player? Is he just a guy that's in the box? Can he play deep? We don't really know too much about Dane Belton, and that's a 4th round pick. You could turn that into a good playmaking safety or a good player in general, but is the coaching staff going to put time into him in terms of his development? Let's take a look at his snap percentage, right, over these last few games. As far as Mr. Dane Belton goes, played 10% against New England, 28% against Washington, 15% against Dallas. That's not good. It's not very good, going to be honest with you. So we'll see if they intend on playing him more in the second half. We are sponsored by SeatGeek, folks, so if you guys haven't already, you guys are going to a game, going to a tailgate, need parking passes, going to a concert, SeatGeek is your one-stop shop, $20 off your entire order with the promo code Big Blue in the Bronx. Big Blue in the Bronx, nothing abbreviated, none of that stuff. But anyway, we move forward and we talk about this coaching staff. So, T-Mac and his special teams excuses, I'm not going to get too much into it, but it's just awful at this point. Special teams hasn't been bad every single game. There's been games where they're good, but just the undiscipline of the players. Like the Cam Brown hit, it's a big hit, but he didn't recover the fumble. New England let it roll out of bounds. The Giants let it roll out of bounds, but Cam Brown was too busy celebrating. That's the discipline that needs to come on special teams. Some of these other things, right? When he made the excuse about the racetrack shutting down and it being torn down, Really? How come opposing punt returners don't have the same wind problem that we do? Is the NFL scripting that? So, T-Mac, in my opinion, he needs to go at the end of the season, but I think these 5 games are going to be a test for him because there are reports circling that Wink, Kafka, and T-Mac could very well be gone under Dable. So, I'm not going to spend too much time on that. I also want to talk about Wink and Dable tensions. That's been heating up, again, more recently. Jay Glazer report, Dan Duggan report, all these different things. That little thing on the sideline against the Dallas Cowboys. Again, I talked about it in a video, in a podcast episode. I do not think Wink is the problem. I don't think he's a guy you scapegoat. You want to get rid of guys, go get rid of guys. These guys love playing for Wink Martindale. They do. You don't hear anything about, T-Mac's great. Mike Kafka's great. You don't hear that. You don't hear that because the players probably don't feel that or feel expressive enough to say that. And I know that it's going to be up now. Oh, yeah, Wink's a great guy. I know that's going to be pushed out there because the reporters are going to ask those questions. But my thing is this. Kayvon, all these different guys, they have succeeded under Wink. The staff that he has put together on the defensive side of the ball. Why? Why would you try to break that up? Why? Because the whole thing with Xavier McKinney? I mean, I would take the coordinator over the player, especially for the fact the player hasn't been, all pro or even Pro Bowl level over the last 2 years. Hasn't been great, right? I would take the coordinator, and especially if the coordinator has a resume to back him up. His years in Baltimore, you do whatever you want. But the defense has been the foundation of this team the last 2 years, and it needs to be the offense coming along at some point. And we're not going to see it the rest of the season because the quarterback play is going to be garbage. The O-line play is not going to be great. The receiver play is probably not going to be great because of the QB play. We're not going to see an uptick in offense. But this defense has played enough to where Wink should stay another year. Will he? I don't know. Personally, I think it would be a mistake to get rid of him. But one second half question I have, and this is not even regarding, actually I'll get two. This one is regarding the offense. Obviously, O-line, QB, running back, wide receiver, all these different issues the offense is having, they're real issues. The next 5 games, we talked about the coordinators being possibly in or out. How much will Mike Kafka be noticed as a minus or a plus for this offense? That's my question. Are you going to sit there against the Saints or against the Eagles or against some of these other teams and say, wow, Mike Kafka actually uplifted this offense to the best of their potential? Or was it, okay, Tyrod just made a play or Tommy DeVito just made a play? Or is it, okay, the receivers suck or the O-line sucks, the QB sucks, or is it going to be Mike Kafka's a terrible play caller? Is it going to be that? How much is he going to be blamed for the offensive inconsistencies we'll continue to see down the stretch? I don't think he's much to blame. I think there is some blame, but I wouldn't have a problem getting rid of him because if you bring in a rookie quarterback, again, the offense has no good continuity with Kafka because they've been garbage, not good offense the last 2 years. And then the final question, how much will Brian Dable be blamed for the mess at the end of the year? I think he's going to stay, obviously, but he's going to make changes to the coaching staff. He needs to make changes. McGahee and Bobby Johnson better go. That's my personal opinion. But as far as that goes, I think you'll see the injuries thing that he fucked up a little bit with Daniel Jones and Andrew Thomas. Obviously, the ACL is not his fault, but the neck thing, that could be something. Andrew Thomas being out for an extended period of time. Saquon coming back after a few games. You won't have too much of a glimpse on that. But the injuries you'll definitely get a blame for, and the offense. The offense is going to be a little bit of blame falling on him because he's an offensive guy. If he's, if he was a defensive guy, then we might not be saying it, but we'd also say, okay, he's a CEO head coach, and he is a CEO head coach, and he should be looking in on what the offense does and what the coaching staff is doing. So, in my opinion, at the end of the season, he'll be blamed for the injuries, some stuff out of his hand. But that's pretty much all I got for you guys. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the good stuff, turn on post notifications so you know when the live stream pops drops. Appreciate you coming back. More Yankees content on the channel, more Giants content, a lot of good stuff coming for you guys. Peace out. See you later. Stay cool.